After a shaky start, things are starting to look pretty good now for third quarter earnings. Bob O'Brien has a lowdown over at Earnings Central. Hey, Bob.
Yeah, it was a shaky start indeed, Melissa, when Alcoa opened up the earnings season by reporting a big miss. Wall Street had its fingers crossed, but uncrossed them today when we got word out of companies like McDonald's that earnings are shaping up better than expected. The company coming out
along the way, Bob. The FCC out delaying a vote on AT&T's $80 billion deal with Bell South. Talk about a trend that has reversed itself. The telecom stocks in general, absolutely sensational over the past 3 months. The agency, this is the FCC, have been expected to vote today on the merger, which will create the nation's, once it's completed, the largest telephone, wireless, and broadband provider out there. Well, instead, the commissioners said that they'll take up the issues tomorrow. The delay suggesting that regulators may be debating whether they ought to add any conditions to the deal to calm competition concerns. On Wednesday, yesterday, the Justice Department okayed the merger after finding no antitrust concerns with the companies. Looking at the trade here, you can see both names move higher today, and robustly so. 1.7%, the advance in AT&T Bell South, good for 1.8. As we square up on 5 minutes from wrapping up our fourth trading day of the week, and a bull run indeed it is. A quality report from the Fed, the beige book benign, and strong earnings across the board. Dow's up 95, Nasdaq's good for 37 points. Melissa.
And we'll be right back with the closing countdown. And after the bell.
This could have happened to him. Now in a Cnbc exclusive, a pilot reveals how a unique safety feature saved his life while flying a plane similar to Corey Lytle's. Genzyme's grueling third quarter. The biotech CEO explains what went wrong and his strategy to regain ground. Find out how. It's all ahead in the second hour of the closing bell.
Welcome back to the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. A new intraday record again today. Broad buying across the board. We got ourselves a full bull market fricassee. Bertha Coombs here on the floor.
Yeah.
What's the story?
And we got cooking early with McDonald's, definitely.
Yeah.
When we had the earnings flow that we were looking for today, and a lot of folks had been very positive about earnings. We've had that nice big come down on oil prices and gas prices, and we're seeing it with McDonald's boosting its third quarter outlook. We've got good numbers from Yum, good numbers from Domino's, and we got a lot of Dow components today hitting new highs. 5 of them today hitting multi-unit highs, including McDonald's, a 7-year high. But the thing is even though the Dow is the headline that we're looking at, it's really broad. The S&P is at 1362. It's not been at that level since February of 2001. That's great. And the Russell 2000, even though everybody says small caps are going to be left behind, Russell 2000 is on fire today, and in fact is the best performer. So we're seeing a lot of folks reaching out, starting to buy. We'll see if this catches on with retail investors. Do you have General Electric on tap tomorrow?
All right, big names coming down the line tomorrow morning. And the market goes out a winner here. 97 points, the advance on the Dow. As Bertha points out, it's across the board. Closing bell rings here, and the closing bell continues right now on CNBC from CNBC World Headquarters with Melissa Lee.
And today for Maria Bartiromo, another day for the record books on Wall Street. The Dow Jones Industrial Average reaching uncharted territory, setting a new intraday high of 11,959, remaining above 11,900 to close at a new record. Better than expected corporate earnings and a benign beige book report, the big catalyst behind today's rally. Take a check on how the markets are settling out. The Dow Jones Industrial Average tacking on 96 points, a gain of 0.8%. We are, by the way, now about 50 points away from Dow 12,000. 5 Dow components, in fact, hitting new highs on today's session. This is the 5th consecutive record for the Dow in the last 9 days. Over on the Nasdaq, also pushing higher, the real winner on the session, up by 1.6%. We did see a nice gain in semiconductors helping that index. And on the S&P 500, hitting its best levels in 5 3/4 years, gaining 12 points on the day, almost 1%, being led higher by Yum Brands as well as Costco, thanks to better than expected earnings there. We've got the Dow's new record covered from all angles. Bertha Coombs is at the big board. Rick Santelli of the Chicago Merc, plus We've got analysis from Ajay Kapoor, Chief Global Strategist at Citigroup, and Fund Manager Andrew Feltis of Global Pioneers High Yield Fund. Bertha, start off with you.
You know, Melissa, one day does not a trend make. Certainly got earnings seasons off to a negative note with Alcoa's report today. A very different story. And this morning, we were off to the races on strong earnings reports. We had McDonald's lifting its outlook. We had a number of strong earnings reports from the likes of Harley-Davidson and from Yum Brands. That was good. Midday, the beige book did not disappoint either, although the Fed says it's sort of mixed as far as economic growth. One of the things they talked about is that consumer spending is stronger than expected. And that's what people are wanting to hear, and that's what's got them with great expectations. On top of that, we've seen breadth beyond the Dow. Take a look at the S&P 500. It's up better than a 5.5-year high today, riding right along, and that's what people want to see. Everything along with the blue chips moving higher. McDonald's, as what you mentioned, one of the standouts on the Dow, reaching a 7-year high today. We got good numbers out of Domino's as well, and Wendy's is spinning off Baja Fresh. That's strong. Retail stocks were strong today as well. We've got General Electric on tomorrow, and that's going to be a big bellwether for a real sense of how the economy is flowing. Meantime, for a sense of how those tech stocks did, very strong today. Let's move on over to, sorry, we're actually tossing back to Melissa. I'm sorry, I'm just so excited here. We had strong tech, we had strong across the board.
We all are, Bertha. Thanks very much. Well, as Bertha had just mentioned, the Fed's Beige Book survey showed pockets of economic strength and weakness across the nation, but inflationary pressures were fairly muted. Rick Santelli is at the Chicago Merc with more. Rick, what do we see in the yields today?
Well, first of all, I'm seeing a lot of buying in the S&P pit after the Dow close. What we are seeing is a three-pronged change in the Treasury and interest rate complex. It really began yesterday in earnest, and it was the final phase of a big correction, moving interest rates higher, and those were the minutes. Today, we had an inflation auction, Treasury inflation-protected securities. Who buys securities that are a hedge against inflation? People worried about inflation. At 1 o'clock Eastern, looking at